Good morning. It's 12:20 a.m. Eastern, and I suppose history happened about 2 hours and 19 minutes ago. This is Phantom Empire, and we're joined by the fellas from the Inside Handoff Football Podcast, Johnny and Jer, and we're also joined by Matt. Honestly, I'm going to sort of do this cold turkey. I want to sort of sit back and listen to the two wrestling experts up there go at it about this and what has happened. Obviously, if you don't know, CM Punk is back. It actually happened this time. I can stop worrying. Johnny, we'll start with you. Actually, you know what? I'm going to start with Jer. I have a feeling Johnny's going to find a way to attack this somehow. So let's start with Jer, who might be a little more positive.
Well, it happened. I mean, and the cool part about it is it was the best, worst kept secret in wrestling for weeks, because they would throw just enough hints where you knew, okay, they're not going to book an 18,000 seat arena and sell it out in 90 minutes if they're not delivering on this, because you have to have faith in the audience, has to have faith in you. And I think this is a perfect example of sometimes just give them what they want. It's not that hard. You don't always need to swerve them. You don't always need to do this. People expected and wanted CM Punk tonight. They bought their tickets. They tuned into the TV show. And God damn it, that's what we got. And I am personally thrilled that, you know what, sometimes wrestling can be really awesome, and just give the people what they want. Like, it's not hard. And, you know, it's 7 years in the making. And if you've listened to his Art of Wrestling podcast, episode 226, if you haven't, go check it out if you want to hear just what he's been through in his previous sports entertainment life. And the reason I say sports entertainment is because he kind of referenced the word wrestling in his promo tonight as something being very important, and him returning to wrestling. And in AEW, wrestling isn't a dirty word like we've been told for the past 20 years, that, you know, being a wrestler is a bad thing. And, you know, I've been a wrestling fan for 30 years, and tonight it was really, really cool to just be a wrestling fan. And I have AEW to thank for that. So it was awesome.
Johnny, just obviously we're just doing our intro, our initial thoughts right now. But yeah, how about you, man?
It was great because it actually happened. And, you know, obviously booking issues aside, it was what it needed to be. Like, it was from the heart. It was long. That's my big problem, was long. It just, like, it was a great moment. It was a feel-good moment. It was awesome. It was what it needed to be. The promo was, you know, on par with the best he's done in his career, you know, and it just, I mean, Jer's right when he talked about, you know, pro wrestling and the things that he said in it, and, you know, they're not dirty words in those parts, unlike, you know, that other place where he worked for so long. That's just, it was just a really great promo. You know, it was to the heart. It was emotional. It was great. I mean, you know, except for booking issues, I have no issues with the promo. Like, the promo itself was top notch. It was amazing. It was Punk being Punk, saying what he needed to say. I mean, I guess I'd say it was Phil being Punk, saying what he needed to say. Right? It was deep. It was from the heart. It was amazing. You know, it's a promo that we'll be talking about for years and years to come, because it had that moment. You know, and he also brought up the company as a whole, which was a big deal, right? I mean, like, when the first words out of his mouth are something like, you know, wow, you guys sure know how to make a guy feel like Britt Baker in Pittsburgh. You know, like, really? We're talking about Britt Baker in your first promo in 7.5 years? But, you know, we are. And he built the company up and, you know, tore down those other guys in a subtle way that was really, really good because it was subtle. You know, it was perfect for a promo. Like, there's no critiquing that. There's no saying, well, maybe if he'd have done this. No, there's booking issues, but there's not promo issues, and that's, thank God for that.
Yeah, we'll get to those other issues shortly when we dive into this more. Matt, Just initial thoughts on the experience, man.
Wow. I mean, dude, really compliment what Jer and Johnny said. I mean, in pop wise, I don't think I've heard a pop like this since Lesnar came back. And what was it, 2012?
That's not even close.
That's not, yeah. But the first thing I was like, well, what kind of pop did I hear that close? And that was about the closest one. And like you just said, it still wasn't enough. But I mean, like you said, he said what he had to say. One of his best promos. And I remember Sean and I were talking about, is he going to take his shot at WWE? Did it twice.
I wasn't sure he would, just because he
I knew he would.
did his oh my god, is it Starcast? Is that what they call it?
Yep.
I mean, that's a thing. I don't know what specifically you're referring to.
Oh, he said that they should focus more on themselves instead of the competition, and it. I've watched that one a couple of times and recently too.
He probably said it there as well.
But not. I don't have a problem with it. I thought everything he said lines up with everything that we've heard. Thankfully, Jer saved me from missing the whole fucking thing, but sadly, I didn't hear the initial pop. I didn't when I finally got it to work. He was just walking out, so I had to go back and watch it. So that kind of sucked. But people are going to say I'm being biased, and keep in mind I only have a WWE sort of experience to rely on here. I'm nowhere near you guys. I'm the average Joe. The only other pop I can even compare it to is when The Rock came back after all that time, and even then, I don't know if I've heard a louder pop. I'm just saying. And obviously, it's his hometown. That's a big deal. Hart Foundation in Calgary Stampede had pretty huge pops, but again, hometown. I don't. It was emotional. I knew it was emotional when I looked over and my fiance was getting emotional, and she doesn't give a shit about wrestling. So I was like, okay, well, there's something here. And the part that surprised me the most, maybe I can have you guys comment on this, is as much as he bashed WWE in the past, and then today did it, I thought very cleverly. He just genuinely looked. Don't be wrong. I actually think he's a decent actor. But he's not that good of an actor to fake how emotional he was and genuine happiness. And I'll be honest, I did not expect to see that. Jared?
I did.
I think, and I think that's the important part, that it was real. He felt every single word that he said. Like Johnny said, it was Phil being CM Punk. And it was cool that you could see the light bulb kind of switch when you went from being grateful to everyone and just saying his true feelings. And then it's like, bam, I got a pay-per-view to sell. Darby, I know you're up there. And then, we got wrestling CM Punk. And I thought it was just an emotional thing. And the pop was phenomenal. The pop was so loud that you couldn't even hear the theme song. Yeah. You heard the initial guitar riff and then just this sound of the crowd losing their mind and Punk just, stage diving off into the crowd on the one side. And it was just an awesome moment. And I think Punk is... Here's the thing with Punk. He's a needle turner, or a needle mover, beyond just the wrestling bubble. I think that's an important aspect. Even just scrolling through Twitter tonight, I have seen completely unaffiliated with TNT in general, but I'm seeing SportsCenter and ESPN, MLB Network shared a video of CM Punk singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." That just the sports world in general recognizes that, okay, this is a huge moment in a crowd of 18,000 people. You can't ignore this, and I mean, the white elephant in the room is we got SummerSlam tomorrow in front of 44,000 people. I think the crowd might be a little fun tomorrow.
Yeah, I could see that being a possibility. Johnny, your thoughts on his emotion? I've already seen some people being like, "Oh, it was all fake. It was all acting." Again, I like CM Punk as an actor. I think he doesn't get enough credit, to be honest, how good he's been in some of his films. But that looks pretty genuine. And again, I didn't think. Let's make this clear to anybody who's not a diehard in the chat. And I don't know what the figures are, and I'm assuming they'll come out eventually. He's getting paid a lot of money. He got the T-shirt, he got the ice cream bar production, he got the song, which, by the way, is different from the WWE one. And that's the point I was trying to make the last time we had Jer on, or the time before, is the WWE one cuts out part of the intro for Living Color. This is the longer extended intro before it actually gets to the vocals, which is another reason why you probably couldn't hear it that well after the initial guitar riff. But Johnny, just your thoughts on what seemed to be pure genuine happiness, which is hard to find in the world in 2021.
I mean, it was exactly that. You know, you could see the emotions. Like you can act all you want, but no matter how good an actor you are, you can always tell fake from real. You know, in anything. You know, the greatest actors in the world, and you can still tell when they're putting on, when they're putting on airs and pretending to be excited or pretending to be happy or sad or whatever the emotions are. There was genuine emotion in his face when he came out through that crowd and felt it. And when he took the knee, it wasn't just because that's what he does on his entrance. It was real. It was legitimate. Like there was happiness in his eyes that, I don't want to say that he was remembered, but that the world didn't leave him behind. Like that's the thing with pro wrestling. No matter how over you are, you will get left behind eventually. Like there are guys that were pulling in 50,000 fans in the 80s that today couldn't pull a house of 200.
Like the Ultimate Warrior.
Well, that's not a fair assessment. That guy went off, and you know what? No, it's a rabbit hole. I chased enough rabbits last night. I chased enough rabbits last night. I'm not chasing any more rabbits tonight. But no, I mean, like we talked about the pop, and in the business we call that a Road Warrior pop, and that's what it was. It's deafening. You can't hear yourself think because they were that special of an attraction, and that's what it was. And you could see that on his face, the genuine emotion that the wrestling world didn't forget about him. The wrestling world still cares, and the wrestling world is still there. It's been 7 years. Not many people can disappear for 7 years and leave the business altogether and come back 7 years later and be over. It doesn't happen. No matter how much the company pushes you. I mean, you either are remembered or you're not. And not just was he remembered, but he was over. That pop was, we talked about that pop. It was the biggest pop that, in 20 plus years of pro wrestling. I mean, you'd probably have to go back to that Stampede pay-per-view in 97 to find a pop that huge, because it was just that monumental a moment, and it was so special. And the genuine emotion he had when he took the knee, and the genuine emotion when he did the dive into the crowd. I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't think there was a chance. Like he does it, I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
I saw pictures of somebody had their cell phone right where Punk jumped in, and he took like 4 pictures of CM Punk's face, and Punk has the biggest smile on his face. It like warmed my heart.
Like it was so man, like it was genuine, it was real. And seeing some of the longtime fans and luminary fans of pro wrestling that, despite the fact that I hate the guy's guts, Frank the Clown is a very well-known jackass in the business, how he got Mick Foley, again, rabbit, I'm not chasing it. I'll watch it go by. But that moment was there. It was so amazing seeing all of the fans just genuinely happy and emotional, and it was amazing.
Not to be that guy, and I'm not by any means criticizing. I want to put this out there right now, and I still want to get Matt's take on it. But like in 2021, crowd surfing's probably not the most suggested thing to do, and it's like he was so fucking happy, he didn't care, he was doing it, and that was that. And I thought like that was just like okay, this dude is, yeah, he's getting very rich doing this, but like he's happy. And I mean, the last 2 years that we've all been through, everybody on the planet, it's nice to see genuine happiness, regardless of what you're watching. Matt, your take, man. What do you think of his emotions, and how were yours?
Oh, I texted. I know I messaged you. I was like, dude, I mean, it was on my arm. You could see hair up on my arm, literally. I mean, goosebumps going up and down my arms. I don't get goosebumps ever. And I was just like up and down, and you just to see, I mean, you see that one picture, that guy floating around with the tears going down his eyes. I was almost there. I was seriously almost there, because you saw the look on his face, and you couldn't help but be, if it didn't hit here on some level as a wrestling fan, then you have no emotional attachment to that character at all. And I think on some level we all do. It's not hard not to, because he's so damn good.
So we're gonna trail off here for a second. John sends in a very generous super chat. He's back. Favorite Punk moments throughout his history. We'll give one apiece. We'll start with I'll buy these guys some time in case they didn't see the question earlier. Or did you guys see the question earlier in the chat?
Oh, I
don't know if you did.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you lead off since I need time?
Oh God, there's a ridiculous number of them. Like, how do I
your favorite? Just grab one.
Like? But that's the point. Like, which one do I grab?
Exactly.
Like off the top of my head, I can think of like 5. You know, like, I mean, I could point to like the Pipe Bomb promo, the Money in the Bank match, the trilogy with Joe and Ring of Honor, the Barn Burners with Chris Hero and IWA Mid-South that went like 2 hours. Like, those 4 right there. Pick any one of them, and that's a moment for me.
I'll go. Mine, it's probably not a popular one, but is the title run. I know that's a bunch of moments, but the 434 days. Is it 434 or 424? I think it's 434.
434, I think.
Summer of Punk 2. That was a good one.
It has, it's half face Punk and half heel Punk, and then Heyman comes in on the back half too, and I just I love him as a heel too, so like I just love the whole thing. Jer, I no idea what you're about to pull, but I'll try to follow.
Okay, it's more of a story, and it cracks me up every time, and it's just so under the radar that I love it. So CM Punk was doing commentary for an IWA Mid-South show in Philadelphia.
Oh, boy.
And it was a double shot. There was an IWA Mid-South show in the afternoon and a CZW show in the evening. And Punk hates CZW. Right? It's all the hardcore deathmatch stuff, and he just hated working there. So Prazak's on commentary with him. And Dave Prazak goes, so Punk, what are you doing tonight? You gonna stick around for the CZW show? Punk waits a second and goes, fuck no. So
I like the my diet was Diet Pepsi or Pepsi. I think it was my Diet Pepsi thing with Cena too when he was on commentating. So Matt, what's yours?
I think the Summer of Cena was probably up there for me. I think one of my favorite times is when the contract between him and Vince. I love that, and I actually watched that today because I hadn't seen one in like years. So that the Summer of Cena, yeah, those are my 2 more special favorite moments of his career in WWE.
Did any of you get teary-eyed? I would have. I didn't. And the only reason I didn't is because my foot was about to go through my TV or Xbox that I just got because I couldn't get the friggin' app to work. So, if that wouldn't have, caused this massive surge of anger, and I was still close, I imagine I probably would have been full on fucking bawling at that point. So, bawling hysterically. How about you guys? Did anybody get teary-eyed?
I mean, no, because, like they said in the scrum afterwards, it was the worst kept secret in wrestling. You know, he didn't just pop up and
Is that
have
Scrum
that
live
moment.
anywhere? By the way, I know it's happened, but
I don't know, but I mean, I have all of the highlights from it.
Yeah, SRS.
Yeah, but it was the worst kept secret in wrestling, but it was still him coming out and everything, and just seeing his emotion, and then just that's what got me. The emotion in his reaction and his face was what got me. If he just came out like da 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 da, hi, I'm gonna go to the ring, cut a promo, and I mean, but you knew that wasn't gonna happen. It was Chicago. It was his hometown. But I think seeing his reaction is what got me reacted.
Jer, what happened, man?
I guess the question was a giveaway, huh? Yeah. Oh, I definitely got teary-eyed. It was just this, because not only could you see how happy he was, but like you just feel happy for the guy, knowing what he's been through to get to this moment. I mean, he loved professional wrestling. And if you love something and it just gets absolutely destroyed for you, and you hate it, and you just walk away from it, and it was something you loved for so long, and then you come back and you realize that, hey, professional wrestling still loves me. You know, when Punk said, when the crowd was chanting CM Punk, and he goes, I heard you every time. And it's like, fuck yeah, you did. You know, because like, I think CM Punk was used, the chants were used as a way to voice anger, displeasure, as well as a want for him to return, because he was the physical embodiment of that. You know, you could put on some trash on SmackDown and this garbage promo is on, and all of a sudden CM Punk chants start. That's the crowd's way of voicing that we don't want this bullshit. You know, stop feeding us this. We're smarter than that. We deserve better than what you're feeding us. And the only guy who willingly pointed it out was a guy who you ran off, and we're pissed off about it. And then AEW comes around, and it's like, okay, at first, you know, Punk kind of flirted with them a little bit, and, you know, it didn't really go anywhere, and that was fine. And then as time goes by, there was one thing that came up in the scrum that Punk mentioned. The AEW's roster, their ability to keep Brody Lee's sickness a secret really struck a chord with him, because it's such a tight-knit unit of people who believe in this company and didn't want to disrespect their coworker by letting his illness get out. You know, that speaks to somebody. And Punk said that, like, that really spoke to me, that this is a good locker room that I want to attach myself to. So I think Punk made the best choice for himself. And yeah, you know what? I felt that. You know, Punk was, you know, teary-eyed when he first came out, and just 7 years of emotion. And, you know, it hits you, you know, because he felt like one of us, and now he's back, and it's fucking awesome.
It's badass. James Grimm says Straight Edge Society is up there for me. I loved Straight Edge Society. I know some people don't, but I dig it. I totally dig it. And I also think you can maybe play with that a little bit more with a certain other person on the roster down the road. So I think that works, but that's just me. That's just,
I didn't even think of that.
I'm not Captain Booker in the top right-hand corner shaking his head. I'm just like I said, the average Joe. So I just, you know, we'll come back to Punk. I want to make this point. You guys can tell me how wrong I am or how right I am. I don't know. Obviously his extended intro and then the commercial break really quickly ate up a bunch of time. Probably too much. I don't know if that's the part Johnny's referring to, but I think maybe it was a bit much. But like, it's his moment, right? It's been how many years? And I mean, the dude almost died. You can die of a staph infection. It's a legit thing.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. One more Punk note I wanted to make is before Rampage came on tonight, I was watching some of that interview that Moxley's wife posted, Renee, who obviously used to work for WWE. And whenever, I mean, I love Punk, but whenever he'd be like, well, yeah, I was supposed to do this thing for this company and WWE squashed it. And I was supposed to do this and WWE squashed it. And like, almost like they were out to ruin me. I always kind of thought, okay, maybe you're playing that up a bit. But then when Renee said she went through the same thing, and she talks about it on the pod, I was like, oh, maybe there's more to this crap than I thought. Again, average wrestling fan who doesn't know shit about the behind the scenes stuff. So I found that to be interesting. But the show in general, and Johnny was making this point for like weeks now. To me, it didn't work. I loved Punk's part, which was great. And then the tag team match, I was just crossing my fingers nobody died. With a couple of missed spots. I was like, holy fuck, someone's gonna die in this match. But like, I think I seen that Punk's thing, intro commercials, etc. After they came back from that commercial, but after they came back from the commercial break, it was like 27 minutes. They had 33 minutes to get through 3 matches. I think that I don't know.
That can't be right, because when he left the ring, it was 10:24.
Not where I was. No, I looked down at my. I mean, again, I don't know how the app works. Maybe we're not on the exact same thing. I don't know. But like when I looked down at my phone, there was only like 34 minutes left in the show. Not after he left, but after they came back from commercial from that point.
That might be closer, but I mean, it was either way. It was a 20-minute segment, and then you had the commercial after. So yeah, that would probably put it close to.
I just don't know why there was 3 matches on a 1-hour show, and for that reason, I don't know how Rampage can be anything but just 3 matches on a 1-hour show moving forward. And Tony Khan basically said that the first week of Rampage is what Rampage is going to normally be, but I don't know if a 1-hour wrestling show works if you want to do stuff like the Punk thing there now and then. I don't know. It just seemed, pacing wise, I look at it as like a big time movie nerd, and the pacing was all kind of fucked up after, Oh,
it absolutely was, especially with 4 backstage segments in there with the 3 matches. It was too much. It was too much, and I knew that right from the jump. Like watching it, obviously you have the moment and it's beautiful, and you do the promo, you do the stuff, and then you get to the wrestling part of it. And then you look at the clock and realize, oh crap, this segment's gone 20 plus minutes. This show's an hour long. You've still got, the semifinals of the tag tournament. You still got the women's, and then you still got the main event segment match. Like, yikes, you're not going to have much time. It's very little time, plus promos in between. There just wasn't enough time for what they tried to pack in. They should have pulled a match, and it's very easy to choose which one, because I love Kira Hogan, and Jade Cargill is an interesting character, but that was a waste. That segment was a complete and utter abject failure because it did nothing. You're not going to put, just from a Booker standpoint, you're not going to push Jade Cargill towards a title match because you firmly established that Britt Baker is a heel by bringing in Jamie Hayter to be your heat. Like, you can't turn Britt face now to face the uber heel Jade Cargill. It's never going to work. You're not going to have heel Jade versus heel Britt. That doesn't work. So why are we wasting a segment to push Jade when we don't have the time? That match was 4 minutes of completely unnecessary schlock with, 2 minutes, extra promos in front of it. Only one person in each of the final 2 matches got an entrance. Like, come on, Kira Hogan is over. She's a name. People know her, and she's not getting an entrance. And then Dan Garcia, who you've been pushing on TV for the last 3 weeks, isn't going to get an entrance for your main event segment. Like, you've wasted time. It is an abject failure, and don't even get me started on the last 5 minutes of the main event.
It felt like I was watching. I'm pulling here, but like WWF superstars from way back in the day, and Bret Hart is versing some guy in flannel who was working at the 7-Eleven earlier that night or something.
His name was Rad Radford, damn it.
The fact you could actually pull a guy that easily describes that description is hilarious. The fact that I know who you were going to say before you even said it, also hilarious. But then, as we've established, you and I share eclectic. The only person who's ever gone toe to toe with me in wrestling trivia is the guy beside me, and that's saying something because it's not easy to do. But no, it was time wasted. Top to bottom. I've been an AEW fan since day one. I guess since -1 because I've been a fan since the original pay-per-view and the precursor, All In. And just this was the worst booked show they've ever done, from top to bottom. No segment worked the way it should have, except maybe the tag match. And that's just because it was a spot fest that you were going to get with those two teams regardless.
Jer, I'm gonna go put my arm around Matt and smoke my vape while you go at it with Johnny. So,
okay. Yes, the structure of the show was just completely off the wall. But here's the catch. Punk was pretty much going to be given free reign. Here's a microphone. Go out there and take as long as you want to say whatever you need. He obviously knows we have a show. He's not going to go, 45 minutes. But I think Punk's promo was the perfect length. He didn't go too long, and he sold the pay-per-view, and he sold a bunch of t-shirts. He made a point of taking off the hoodie into the t-shirt. Got to sell, right? So I think everything in Punk's promo worked, and I mean, like you said, Sean, I think the show itself is going to go back to the same format as last week going forward, because this is just an anomaly. Yes, the structure was really weird. They could have got rid of the Jade Cargill match. They could have given the 4 minutes to the Moxley match. Personally, I was really excited for that. And when I see Moxley coming to the ring at 10:54, I'm like, damn it. I actually really wanted to see this match, and I know they're only going like 5 minutes. And then
we had a 3-minute segment to end the show to put Sting and Darby Allin over, because that made sense.
It did. They were feuding with 2.0,
which they finished on Wednesday night. Let that be the end.
I mean, you get Sting.
To me, it comes down to this: who's Darby working with next Wednesday night? It ain't 2.0.
Okay,
he's working with Punk. There was no point in having Sting and Darby Allin come out to make that, other than to have Sting. It goes back. I'm a fan of Bruce Pritchard. I'm a fan of Bruce Pritchard and his podcast.
That explains so much.
Shut the fuck up. It harkens back to something he likes to say about Vince's booking strategies in the late 80s. How do you end a pay-per-view? Hogan must pose. That's what it felt like. Sting must pose. It's TNT. Sting had no business being there. Darby had no business being there. Okay. You set them up with Punk in the first quarter hour. Great. That's it. That's going forward. You do nothing. You either let the heels get their heat, or you let Eddie and Moxley beat them off. If they're doing what I think they're doing, which is building towards a 6-man tag at All Out, you let the heels have their heat.
Okay.
They need their heat.
You can still do the 6-man on Wednesday if that's what they're going to do.
I mean, why does Sting need to be there? Why does Darby need to be there?
Would you? Okay. They beat Garcia in the match.
Yes.
So 2.0 comes in, starts wrecking shit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you take the guy that you just beat with the tag team that just lost last Wednesday and have them stand tall to end the show?
Do you have the heels stand tall to end the show? Why not?
To go where?
You can still. I'm saying it right now. At All Out, it is a 6-man tag match. It is 2.0 and Dan Garcia against Eddie, John Moxley, and a mystery partner, Switchblade Conspiracy, at All Out. I'm calling it right now.
I don't know what that means. Dumb that down, please.
That's John Moxley and Sami Callihan. That goes back to their old days, their CZW days, their indie days. Moxley just put a trademark on the name. All? Moxley just trademarked the name.
So what? He could go back to CZW.
Really? Fuck. That's the hill you want to die on? He can go back to CCW?
He could. I mean,
come on now. Come on now. Switchblade Conspiracy in AEW.
And yes, they could have given 2.0 a little bit of heat.
The point was, like, they didn't need Sting to do it. Like, it's Eddie and Moxley. They're still two of your big name guys. Like, you can have them get their heat. You can have them chase off 2.0. Like Garcia's still down from the main event, from the actual match. Just have him stay down. 2.0 comes in. They try to get the shine. Eddie comes in. Babyfaces rally. It's 2-on-2 because they have to hold Garcia out as he leaves the ring because he just took the DDT and ate the choke and. Did I miss a special guest?
Cat, apparently.
Okay, I'm going to fulfill the request.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, I don't know which one this is going to be. Like, does
hang on? Where's my rotate? There we go. Okay.
You want to talk?
Okay. So, I have been a CM Punk fan for probably 20 years. And there is visual proof of this fact.
Yes, there is.
And since she paid for it, I will give her what she wants.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool.
That predates me meeting you by a couple years in a Mohawk.
Speaking of which, I hung out with your buddy Hayes tonight.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, he worked the main event. Yay, local wrestling. I
thought you put over people in the main event segment.
Yeah. No, I ran a show in Oshawa earlier tonight, and I'm rushing home with my phone at it's like 9:54, and I'm like trying to load the app on my phone just in case. And I'm like running into my lobby and going into my elevator. I'm like, oh no, I can't do mobile data. I'm like freaking out in my elevator, and I run down the hallway and get in here and load it up on my computer at like 10 p.m. It was awesome.
I think Mohawk Jer would be a better spend of $5.
Okay,
that's when I met Jer.
Technically, it was kind of Mohawk Jer, just the Mohawk was kind of down.
We can go into longer.
Okay, how about Mohawk Blonde Jer?
Oh Jesus.
We can go into longer discussions if you guys are up for staying up a little bit later. But I need to outro Matt here in a second. And before we do, I have an important question because I've heard this going around. So if this was the first dance, I kind of get the feeling that you might get a last dance. And a lot of people are pointing towards, and he even mentioned it in the promo, a year.
I don't think so.
Do you think this is one and done, or can this be longer?
I'm just gonna. We talked about the scrum. I'm gonna just say this: Punk doesn't want to disclose how long his contract is. Tony Khan says the contract isn't short term or part time.
So he's going to be there every week, pretty much.
Yeah,
or
but
at least
what's short term in the wrestling industry, right? Like, right, but I mean, look at Goldberg's deal with I did get it. This is WWE Sports Entertainment, not pro wrestling. But I was listening the other day. Like he has a few dates he has to fulfill, and then he has 2 matches a year, and next year is the last one of it. Lesnar obviously had similar stuff, was more prominent. I just for somebody who is not as into it as you guys, I don't know what short term. Like sports, yeah, 1 year, even 2 years is short term. I know Jericho got 3 years when he signed on. I don't know what his what the money was, but I know he got 3 years.
That's probably where I would say it probably is. 3 years.
Like if you had to bet on it, do you guys think this?
I think 3 sounds about right for Punk right now. And
I'd say it's at least 2. It's at least 2. Maybe the third year is an option. You know, let's see how everything goes. Because I mean, by the third year, Punk is 44.
Yeah,
I don't know if that matters too much at the
moment. No, I'm not saying it does. Because I mean, apparently at this point, that's prime.
Let's say, dude looks healthier than he did at the end of his WWE run. I mean, that match against the Undertaker, you know, he looks like he's on heroin in the match. Obviously, he's not. But like he obviously wasn't very healthy, even dating back to that match.
I straight up think this is his forever home. I think he moves from the ring to the commentary booth seamlessly.
Yeah, he's going to do a bunch of stuff.
Not to mention the flexibility to continue his acting, which he obviously has a passion for, and people have interest in him. And if you've been following this channel, and if you're a member of the Patreon, remind you, this is forever ago now. This is like when Halloween Kills was first filming. We reported that CM Punk, or rather Phil Brooks, was at least in talks for a minor role in Halloween Ends. He loves Halloween. He loves Michael Myers. He loves the franchise. He loves horror. It makes sense. But he can do those things too, and he can do heels if there's a season 2. And because there's no live shows right now for AEW or house shows for AEW, right? And even
just
when
TV pay-per-view.
even when there is, I can't imagine it'd be anything close to a WWE schedule.
Oh, God, no.
And even then, I don't think he's going to be working. He's not going to be a TV match guy. I think he's going to be.
I mean, I would
probably
have said that about Sting when he showed up too, though.
Even Sting's on like I think him and Sting will kind of have a similar schedule to an extent. I mean, Sting's literally there every week. Sting does Dark Elevation now, so I mean, Sting is there every week on almost every show. But I mean, we're getting like what 4 Sting matches a year, so I think Punk will obviously sell more, has more pay-per-view value than Sting. I mean, no offense to Sting, but people aren't going to. Sting in a singles pay-per-view match is not going to sell as many as CM Punk wrestling a singles match. So, like, if you can structure Punk around that, and sure, throw in an occasional TV match. I mean, he's going to be there every week as if this is Raw in 2011. So, and it's going to be weird kind of getting used to that, like it's this AEW thing is just ever evolving where, oh, hey, cool, we get Moxley there every week. Awesome. And then it's like, oh, hey, Eddie Kingston got signed. That's awesome. And then it's just like, it just keeps going and they keep bringing in these guys. And then, you get Danielson coming in next month and you got, potentially Adam Cole because he hasn't re-signed yet. So it's just this ever-evolving door of like, and AEW keeps evolving, and it's just not stagnant whatsoever, and it's really cool. So, yeah.
Matt, how long do you think it is, and how long do you hope it is?
3 years. I think it's a 3-year deal.
I could see his career being done at the end of 3 years, though. Like his in-ring career, his active in-ring career being done. And again, I mean, I always worry about, when's something going to end? And I'm going to do my best to just sort of live in the moment and enjoy it because I'm somebody who hasn't watched consistently since the 434 run. And even then I was only watching the shows he was on.
You were just watching for Ryback, admit it.
Oh, totally fucking hard on for Ryback, man. I don't know. Last question before we let Matt go, and then we can dive into whatever. Unless people have to go, it is 1 a.m. Are they going to do Punk versus Cabana? Is that a thing? Like, what's the I can't see it being a thing, but I see it all over Twitter. Everybody speculating. I just don't. I don't know. I don't see those guys on the same level. But again, I don't know if I've ever seen a Colt Cabana match. So, yeah.
I mean, are they on the same level skill-wise? As hard as it is to believe, yes, they are. Colt Cabana is a phenomenally talented wrestler that chooses to stick himself into a niche that he is extremely good at and has worked that to maximum appeal and potential. So as far as a work rate standpoint, sure, they could have a great match because they have. I'm sure I can't point to specific dates, but they had bangers in IWA Mid-South in the early 2000s that stand up. Their ROH matches that got them signed were great matches, so there's definitely skill there, but there's no story there. Like, yes, okay, real life. Oh man, real life, but that's not, you can't build an angle around that. Like it's too real, like.
Yeah, you can't cut a promo and say, hey, I took this guy to court 3 years ago. Come see me.
I challenge you to a ladder match, and we're gonna hang the $100 and whatever $1,000 you think I owe you above the ring, and winner takes all. No, that's not gonna happen because it's stupid booking. It's too real. It just doesn't. No.
Alrighty, Matt. Appreciate you coming by, man. We'll get you out of here. You're basically passing out at that mic. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I know you and I've been talking on and off about it. And we'll talk more. I'm assuming the next time we'll do one of these will probably be following All Out. We'll see what happens there. It seems like AEW has a lot up their sleeve. We haven't even touched on the fact that, I mean, Jer name dropped Adam Cole, and well, I've never seen an Adam Cole match. I know who it is. Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman are both free agents too, so you have to wonder if you eventually run out of space for some of these guys. But lots of exciting times ahead, dude. Thanks for doing this.
All right, man. Y'all have a good night.
That was Matt, staff member of the channel, and someone that was stoked to see this. So I was going to go somewhere with this, and I've forgotten already. So is there anything else you guys want to cover on the show itself before talking about what ifs?
I mean, before we go to what ifs, I want to talk about the booking of it. Like in general, it was a waste.
Didn't we already do that? I could have
Not
sworn
really.
we already did that. Okay.
No, not really. We didn't talk about how, the actual booking of it was not touched on. Just how you felt about it.
Johnny hated the promo that Darby was up in the roster.
No, I love the promo,
Punk
and
was
it set up the match just fine, but it was useless from a company perspective. Like, you have the worst kept secret in wrestling, admittedly. Putting him on cold doesn't move the needle. It doesn't do anything for anybody. It just doesn't.
Before you go
make
further
sense.
on that from a booking point, you just made me clue into my question. So for obviously diehards, everybody had a good idea. Punk was either coming back or getting announced. I know you were on the announced and then showing up at All Out. But did they market it well enough to actually generate a significantly bigger number tonight? I don't know in terms of somebody. Again, I don't know wrestling booking, but I do know entertainment marketing and when it comes to TV and movies. And I would not be surprised if the number is not massively higher just because of the route they went. Now, maybe Dynamite on Wednesday, now that they know he's going to be there, maybe that number goes way up. I don't know about tonight. Like, would it surprise me if they did 1 million tonight? It wouldn't, but I don't know. Like, what do you guys think about that? That's the part I worry about.
1 million isn't so much moving the needle. Like it pushes it up, 150,000 from last week, which, yes, that's a significant jump. But it's not a significant jump when you figure Wednesday, they're already pushing 1 million on the average week. So that's, you want a Dynamite number. You want something to succeed, to supersede the Dynamite number. And it probably will this week because Dynamite actually had a lower rating, but there was no, like, it did nothing. Like, this is going to be one of those, there's going to be those who watched it because they watch the product every week right now. Those are the people that are going to watch it every week. There's going to be a small number of people who are buying the hype and saying, I'm going to check it out this week because it's been built so hard. And then the rest of the fan base are in the, if it happens, I'll check it out afterwards. I'll watch it on YouTube where you inevitably have the moment posted ad nauseum. Like, that moment is going to do huge YouTube numbers, but that's not going to push you needle rating wise. Like, it didn't make sense. Like, this is, AEW has not been afraid to do the surprise debut, but they've also not been afraid to do the announcement. Like, they've announced lots of people are going to arrive before they arrive. And they've also teased, like, they didn't even tease a debut for this week. Like, there was nothing that could make you, like, buy in. It was just presented as an average show with, yes, okay, they dropped a lot of subtle hints. But you had to be looking for those. Like, I didn't notice until today that, Kenny Omega was wearing a Chick Magnet shirt on Wednesday night.
It's literally the first one that comes up on Amazon. It's almost like they were like, oh, okay, that's the first one. We're buying it.
So it's like, yes, there were lots of subtle hints, but there was no outright tune in because something huge is going to happen. There was none of that. So you didn't push the needle. I don't think you pushed the needle strong enough ratings wise. And when we go back to booking, I don't even think you booked it properly.
I think the rating is going to be phenomenal because of the way they booked it.
Oh.
You don't book an 18,000 seat arena and sell it out in 90 minutes if you don't deliver on your promise. You don't do that. Especially WWE might do that because they like to fuck with their fans. AEW is not going to do that. So you have faith in the product that they're going to deliver on this unspoken promise. Why would they book Chicago? Why would they throw all these hints on TV with the shirts? The reason why it worked is because they're not treating you like a moron. They're not spelling it out for you. Wrestling fans are not stupid. They know, okay, the average wrestling fan is going to figure out exactly what we're doing. They're going to know to tune in because he's going to be there. We're not just going to run this show with Daniel Garcia and John Moxley in front of 18,000 people. Yeah, no. They're going to throw CM Punk right out there because that's what people paid money to see. That's what people tuned into the TV show to see. And it's fulfilling knowing that I turned on that show and at 10:02 p.m., bam, CM Punk was on my TV because the build was there. They just didn't need to throw it at my face because I'm not a fucking moron. I get it. I get the hints. I know what they're doing. I know why they booked Chicago. I know why they're doing this. They don't need to beat me over the head repeatedly and say, hey, CM Punk's going to be here. You got to tune in. CM Punk. No, I get the subtle hint you're throwing at me. I'm going to tune in. Let's just enjoy the moment. And I think the organic aspect of it is important, not only from the booking perspective, but the fact that it makes it even more memorable. If they had said, oh, hey, CM Punk's going to be on Rampage, they could build it for 2 months and they would have sold just as many tickets and less people would have tuned into the TV show because you already know what you're getting. There's the allure of not knowing 100%. It's like, hey, what if he doesn't show up? I'm going to tune in because I don't quite know. It's exciting. But in the back of your mind, okay, they're going to deliver on this. I just don't know how. Speaking of booking, a key rule in booking is give the people what they want, just not how they expect it. And what that means is you keep a little element of surprise, so you're not handing it to them on a platter, so that when it happens, there's still an element of surprise, but there's also an element of being rewarded for having faith in that story. And Tony Khan built it up in such a subtle way, but he'll throw hints there, here and there. And even when he came out before the show started, when they were done filming Dark, he's like, thank you for coming. Your patience and faith in us is going to be rewarded. And that's what he said all week. He's telling you without telling you. And I think more wrestling companies need to do that. Stop beating me over the head with this shit. I get it. Try and surprise me once in a while. Get me to invest myself in your product by not knowing exactly what you're giving me. Give me a little doubt. I have a feeling you're going to give me what I want, but just give me a little bit of doubt so that way I have to tune in. It's not a choice. I need to know whether you're going to give me the product that I'm hoping I'm going to get, and AEW succeeded with that tonight. And I think the rating is going to be pretty big. I don't know if it'll, be like 1.3 or whatever, but I think they'll pop enough of a rating because the buzz is there. And the buzz is big enough to, like I said earlier, all of these mainstream news outlets are covering this. I've seen the video posted everywhere. So,
Let me ask you guys this, as again somebody who represents the normal maybe even a little out of touch fan who hasn't tuned in for a while, I don't know 70% of the WWE roster. I just don't anymore. I don't watch. But am I right in saying if you take John Cena out of the equation, maybe even with John Cena, but if you take John Cena out of the equation because he just came back and will probably be leaving again, I would assume. There's nobody in the WWE right now that moves the needle like Punk does, is there? Or am I missing someone? AJ Styles, maybe, but maybe not even him. I don't know.
No, it's the way WWE books. There is not. I mean, okay, yeah, Roman Reigns is the top guy.
That took a long time.
Exactly. So, and the problem with that is everybody, it's 50-50 booking. Everybody is on the same level. There's no guy up here where he's like unbeatable. There's no Hulk Hogan. There's no Steve Austin where you know he is the guy, you know, and we can build a company around that. You know, John Cena was really the last of that breed, essentially, because now it's less about, oh, we can't have Steve Austin be the top guy in our company and then refuse to put over Brock Lesnar and leave like he did.
Which was the right decision.
It was, but it gave WWE cold feet around booking an entire company around a guy. And even Lesnar is a good example of this because he left in 2004 too. They got cold feet on booking that top guy. So now they book it. Everybody's on the same level pretty much. You know, you get a little bit here and there, but nobody's the top guy because people pay to see WWE. They don't pay to see Roman Reigns. They don't pay to see Randy Orton. They pay to see a WWE show. And you know what you're going to get, but you're not, there's no like top merch seller who's like the guy on TV Guide. You know, it's just WWE now. And it's not a good business model because everyone else is just there. And they're so interchangeable. I mean, they do rematches every week on TV now. So it just hurts the product because you feel disengaged from it. And nobody means anything. You know, they can, well, with all the guys they've fired in the past 2 years, nobody matters in the company where they are irreplaceable. And that's not a good business model. Right now, if you take MJF out of AEW, would they go on? Absolutely. Would they be okay? Probably. Would it hurt the overall product? Yes. Because he is positioned as a top guy. He doesn't lose often. He's one of the best promos in the entire business, not just AEW. And he's seen as a top guy. You know, he's the head of the pinnacle. You know, he just beat Jericho on TV last week. So he's not just this middle of the card guy that you just pick him out and put him wherever you want. No, he's a top guy because you built him that way. And that's why there's value to him. You know, there's no value to, you know, Kofi Kingston. So what? He was a WWE champion at WrestleMania. You'd think that would be, you know, give him, you know, some kind of stature. No, he's a guy. He lost to Brock Lesnar in 4 seconds on the first show on Fox. He's a guy and he doesn't matter. And you could say that about 97% of their roster. And it's sad because, like I've said before, wrestling is not a hard business to book. You just need to do it properly and create stars. And they're afraid of creating stars because they've tried to create stars and have failed. Roman was a failure for so many years that they just kept pushing him to spite themselves. And because of that, they got even more cold feet and they refused to put anybody else in that position. Daniel Bryan lucked into being in the main event of WrestleMania back in 2014. And you want to know the guy who kickstarted that one? CM Punk, because he left. So that completely shuffled the entire card that year.
It shuffled the card, but by that point, smart booking was he's the guy, and it started that back in the summer. It started that back in the summer, though. If they'd have followed it, he peaked in September.
But that wasn't the plan.
No, it's not. I'm not talking about the plan. I'm talking purely from a. By the time,
like, that's what I mean. Like they luck into stars rather than build them. You know, they get stars to spite themselves. Even Punk, you know, before that night at Money in the Bank, he was the fucking leader of the Nexus. I mean, it was a throwaway title match until it came out that, hey, Punk's contract's up. Hey, maybe we can do something with this. And then all of a sudden, all these news outlets are picking up that, oh my God, the WWE champion is not under contract. I mean, he was, but, you know, they created this story and all of a sudden it just took off, which led to the WWE's version of the Summer of Punk. So they
killed.
Yeah, like they luck into stars rather than build them. Yeah. You know, so it's ass backwards, and it blows my mind that you can't just take a guy and I want to build a company around this guy. Okay, have him beat people, give him an engaging personality, let him talk, and he'll sell you some fucking tickets. That's it.
I know WWE is this billion-dollar company, and the product can be as shitty as it wants to be, and it's going to be a long time before anything fatal were to happen. Not that I would ever want that either. I would never wish that upon them or anything. But I've never, like, I've always heard, oh, well, Punk goes to AEW or Punk goes to place X, WWE is going to be in trouble. And maybe not from a financial standpoint at all, but like from a creative standpoint, I do sit here and go, okay, well, what do they do? You know, like, because, like, I don't think they have anything outside of Roman. Does seem like a cool heel. I haven't watched much, but seems like a cool heel. Makes you wonder why they didn't do that when the fans wanted him to be a heel, or pushing him to be a heel. I don't know. Again, I don't know a whole lot about.
It's a very simple answer. They do nothing, because doing something raises them up.
Right, but
it raises AEW.
That yesterday. Like, why? Why did he, like, I'm assuming you heard about that interview yesterday that Roman did, and
yeah.
Oh, that's just company. Like, that's, you know, that's them saying, say this, do this. That's not.
But that put more attention on Punk and AEW.
It did, but that was going to happen anyway.
Okay, here's
it was their way to try and divert it.
Like, okay, WWE is so petty when it comes to CM Punk that they likely told Roman, if you get asked anything about CM Punk, because obviously he's the hot topic right now, say this, but, you know, make it seem in character that, you know, but talk shit about him, obviously. You know, we don't like him. WWE is so petty that when Punk did his podcast with Cabana, he talked about the MRSA and staph infection and all that. And the injury was on his lower back. That's where the infection was. WWE posted a match where there were stills, like the still to click on the match was a back shot of CM Punk's ass. Why would they do that? It was like a match with like Dean Ambrose or something. And then you clue in, oh, they're showing that picture because it doesn't show the infection that Punk talked about. So they're trying to say, hey, subtly, but they're trying to say, oh, Punk's full of shit. Look at this picture of him in his tights from this match where he was talking about it. There's no injury there, even though Punk mentioned that it was below his waistline, so you're not going to see it in the fucking picture. But WWE is petty enough to try and cover their bases by posting that screenshot with the match.
The important thing to differentiate is that to the company, CM Punk is not an AEW star. He's a WWE star. We created him. We made him. He is who he is because of us. So we're going to talk down on you. We're going to do this, but we're still talking about one of our own. You've been gone for 7 years, but you're still one of ours. We created you. Don't forget that. That's their whole point. It's not about, you know, they're not talking about Jungle Boy. They're not talking about MJF. They're talking about guys they created. So if they're going to throw a shot, it's going to be at Cody. It's going to be at Punk. It's going to be at Jericho. It's going to be at somebody whose name is tied to theirs. They're not going to throw shots at the undercard because that's stupid because they don't have one of their own. But they're going to throw shots at the guys that they helped create, that they put on that pedestal, that they put in the mainstream because they can. It's petty, but that's what they do. That's pro wrestling. You know, I mean, look at some of the history of the business. You know, a guy gets over in another territory, so suddenly the TV in New York is showing them get jobbed in 30 seconds. Because you're not over here. We didn't make you. You're nothing.
They create the narrative.
Exactly. The only way to change the narrative is to outlast them. And can they do it? as long as Shad Khan lets Tony keep doing it, yes.
Yeah.
But if it reaches a point where the company starts losing money, or they start losing some of that it factor, if they start getting bloated like WCW, that's the question: can they last? And obviously there's no way to know that right now, but all signs point to yes. But they're not the first upstart to get over and get hot and get featured on the national stage.
In
They're
my
not
lifetime, I've never seen, other than WCW, again, to the average goer out there, the big fight for me was WCW, WWF. I know there's a bunch of other companies. I'm talking mainstream stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anyone as big as AEW other than those two companies on a mainstream level.
Yeah.
Again,
and those other companies weren't putting up competitive numbers.
That's the difference.
Like AEW has.
That's the difference.
Yeah. Like TNA went head to head with Raw Monday nights for like 2-3 months maybe, and they got absolutely demolished. And this was 10 years ago.
Even without
Lesson learned, right?
Even without going head to head, it's about those competitive numbers. When you can put your show up against Monday Night Raw and say we are drawing a crowd the same as you are, then you're legit. You're competition.
Yeah.
It's the WCW effect. Exactly.
TNA never, ever, ever.
No.
They were lucky to put like 6,000 in an arena. AEW put 18,000 in an arena tonight. And the visual of that, you could do a crowd pan and you could think you were watching a WWE show.
We don't got there's nobody in our audience dressed up like an empty chair. How about yours?
Yeah, I mean, I could do this all night, but I'm friggin' exhausted. So if you guys are cool, I want to just do some rapid fire questions quickly.
Yeah, sure.
I got a few, and it looks like the chat has a few as well. I don't want to leave anybody out here. I lost my spot already. John said all of SmackDown tonight were rematches. I don't know.
Of course it is. There's no new stars. There's no new talent. Roster turnover there is get fired.
Yeah, they don't even call anybody up anymore. And if they do, they feed him to Jeff Hardy.
Ben Grimm, WWE fired him on his wedding night, right?
Yep. Send him the papers. In the
Technically,
mail.
I mean, nobody knew it was his wedding night, so it's not like it wasn't an intentional slight. Nobody knew they were getting married.
I think there was something there that it was at least mildly intentional.
Maybe, but I think it's just in a corporation like that. I think it's as much accidental as intentional because there's so many hands that are on it, right? Like that's the thing. Like it's not just Vince saying, it's not Vince picking up the phone and going, "Phil, you're fired."
No, they sent him his papers in the mail, and he got them on his wedding night. I think that was on purpose.
It's crazy to think that I do remember when it came out that he was on sabbatical, but it's crazy to think like in another world he may have came back after all that.
No, he was back.
No, but my point is like a lot of people assumed he was fired already.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So, it was just sort of like this unspoken thing, right? But yeah, what's the best feud for Punk in AEW?
Maxwell Jacob Friedman. That's who it should have been. Like, that's who they should have started. I still say, I say they booked it wrong. You're damn right they did. If you're going to do a cold open, no segment, you're going to play that music to start the show. It is not Phil Brooks that walks through the curtain first. It is MJF pointing and laughing at all the sycophants who actually believed this. And then you can play the music again and the real guy comes out. You've made a star. You've made a star on the internet because you're right. Sports Center, ESPN, all these guys are going to pick up on this. Let's put him in the ring with one of our guys and make a star out of somebody else because that's going to play. That moment of the crowd, like you get the cheers of the crowd, like, oh, this is really happening. And then MJF comes out and laughs. That reaction would have been nuclear. It would have been garbage in the ring circa Bash 96. It would have been the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they squandered it.
I think Darby is probably the right guy. because he's over and he can also take a loss. You know, Punk's going to go over on Darby at the pay-per-view. And I think MJF is protected to an extent where you don't want to feed him to Punk just for the sake of, you know, it's CM Punk. Well, you know, MJF is not the guy to do it right now, especially considering he just went over Jericho.
I'll differentiate that. I don't think MJF should be the first feud, but he should be the feud. Like this
Darby
Allen thing is done after All Out. It's not a long-term program.
I don't think it's long-term. I mean, I think it's one and done.
It's one and done. You've still got it.
Yeah, it's a Punk.
You're
return
good. You're
match
good,
with a
kid.
guy who's
You're good, kid. I got you this time, but next time I might not be so lucky.
Yeah.
I think that's the gist of it. It's not a long-term thing. So I'm okay with that being his first match because it does make sense from a logistical standpoint. You don't want to put him in the ring with MJF this soon, but that's the guy I debut him against as the guy. Like it's Jericho debuting against The Rock. You know, it's that sort of effect. You're not pairing them up, but you put their names together so that fans think about them at the same time.
Someone asked earlier, I can't remember who it was, is WWE gonna sell? There seems to be out of nowhere a lot of traction on that. I mean, George Lucas sold Star Wars, so I guess there's a number for everybody.
It's kind of like a false narrative in the way though. They were asked if they were selling, and they're like, "Well, we're listening." I mean, of course you're listening if somebody's gonna offer, but I don't think there's any offers on the table, so they're not listening. So it's like can't have one without the other.
The difference is, like, you compared like Lucasfilm and George Lucas. The difference is Lucasfilm wasn't a publicly traded company. You know, this was George deciding, I'm done. I'm hanging them up. I'm too old for this shit. Here's a Brinks truck that Disney's going to back up to my parking lot, and you can have it all. Fine, great, I'm done.
And just for the kicker, you can't alter my 6 movies. So,
yeah. Speaking of booking rematches, you see those 6 movies?
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. I like that. What's the deal with the TNA AEW crossovers? How do they work? Let's try to keep it short, but maybe you guys can explain how that works.
There's this thing in professional wrestling called before the WWE swallowed the universe, promoters used to work together. Promoters used to be friends. They used to help each other. Until Vince McMahon Jr. came around, at which point Vince McMahon Jr. is someone who, as a child, didn't learn to share his toys. Professional wrestling promoters were people that used to be capable of sharing their toys. So you could get things like Dusty Rhodes main eventing at Madison Square Garden, and Bob Backlund main eventing in Tampa, or Von Erich in Texas, or Ric Flair in Los Angeles, or Roddy Piper in Portland, or all these other things that used to be commonplace stopped being commonplace when Vince said, no, you're mine and nobody else can touch you.
Yeah, and another key element is there have been crossovers in the past, recent past, where guys, for example, New Japan did a talent crossover probably 10, 15 years ago with, which company did I say first? Anyway, New Japan and TNA did a crossover. And New Japan's guys would go there and get beat like a drum. And there was no payoff for the New Japan guys. So they would just go on American TV and look like goobers. And there was no...
Okada, Tanahashi.
Yeah, so there was nothing... The thing with crossovers and why they're working so well right now is it's all about give and take. For example...
you mean an Impact storyline has played out on Dynamite? What?
Exactly, right? So you take a guy, let's say, Sammy. I mean, it didn't work with Sammy because there was something came up. But let's say Sammy goes to Impact. Okay. Sammy goes over Josh Alexander and wins the X Division title. Cool. Okay, so Sammy can come back on AEW TV holding the belt. Hey, and then
You just
your average
completely
fan
washed past the whole Christian thing. now.
Well, Christian is he doesn't feel like the right example, because then with Sammy coming over and being like, hey, I'm an Impact champion, and he goes and does his thing, then Impact can say, okay, your guy came and won our belt, and he looks good for now, we're gonna beat him eventually, but we'll let him get over. Now our guys, let's say the Good Brothers, go on your TV and look good. So it's all about treating each other's talent fair.
You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. Not
Exactly.
I punch you in the face, you stab me in the back.
Exactly. Don't beat my top guys and make them look like an idiot, and we won't do the same to yours. And then when we eventually do beat them, it's just a one-time thing, and it's not going to hurt him because he just had a big run, So, and that's the thing with like guys like Kenta coming over from New Japan, or Tanahashi challenging for the title, and just all these little things, even like Moxley and Archer, and so it's just, as long as the guys are booked well. And the problem with that is you can't get two bookers in a room and figure out who wants to scratch their ass or wind their watch.
My company's more important than yours. My guy gets to go over.
Exactly, and that's why it failed for so many years, because you'd have I'm going back to the 80s, but the AWA and the NWA and Memphis and World Class would all get together, and they'd put on this big show with like 13 matches and all their champions.
Congratulations, you just described Pro Wrestling USA.
Exactly. And then within 3 months, the head of World Class is bitching that the AWA champion looks better than my champion. And it's just, you can't get along long enough to make it work. So that's why this is so refreshing, because everyone knows that, okay, WWE is their own beast. They're doing their own thing. They're not going to work with anybody. We're fine with that. We're not competing with that. We want to therefore make our talent look better by working with other companies while we make their talent look better. I don't think Impact is going to complain if Christian loses the title match at All Out, because he just won their title. He beat Brian Myers tonight on the Impact show. So, like, you can beat guys, but it's how you beat them. As long as Christian isn't losing to, Luchasaurus in 2 weeks, Impact is going to be okay with that. You're not beating our champion and making him look like an idiot. Christian cut a promo tonight and looked good. It's all about how you position the guys and showing respect, because you're not competing. I mean, Impact isn't competing with AEW. They're not reaching into each other's pockets for market share. They're not on the same night. They're not running the same towns. There's no competition between them. So why not just work together? Everybody comes out of it looking better. And it's amazing that it's taken wrestling promoters this long to actually get on the same page, but we're seeing the fruits of that now in 2021.
Let me ask you guys this one. This is my question. How do we feel anyway? Get rid of that comment. How do we feel about the shirt? Obviously, this thing's going to sell a ton for obvious reasons. But I've seen, maybe they're just anti-Punk people, or maybe they have a point. I've seen some people saying it's a little too spot on with, well, obviously the other shirt it's inspired by. I'm trying to buy it, so you can imagine what I think about it. But how do you fellas feel about the shirt?
Wait, you mean a Chicago kid narking on the city of Chicago flag is shocking and otherworldly? Sorry, people, but that flag is as old as the city of Chicago. Like,
yeah, I'm fine with the shirt. It's. I mean, he's been doing that, essentially that design, for 10 years now. It's just a different version of the shirt that he wore when he won the Money in the Bank title match. I think it's a cool shirt.
Me too. Now let me buy it. Fuck.
Yeah, right. Like,
I point out that flag was adopted by the city of Chicago in 1917.
oh, back in your young years.
yeah.
Um,
Ed Strangler.
Excuse me.
He was
Excuse me. I'm the youngest guy on this panel. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
John asks, how would you feel if Punk bounced between AEW and New Japan like Mox?
I got no problem with it. I mean, it was again, we talked about that scrum. He literally mentions.
Anybody know if there's video of that yet?
I have no idea. I assume there is somewhere. I just don't know where. Again, I just read the highlights because that's all I actually care about, not reporters jockeying for position. But he literally calls out New Japan and considering talking to them if they want to offer him a spot in the G1 and CM Punk in the G1. I don't hate that plan.
Well, Punk's
But I
reply
don't
was-
think Tony Khan would be too ecstatic about the idea of punking off for a month and a half over the summer.
Well, Punk's reply was, I mean, we'd have to talk about it because I don't see CM Punk working, 10 matches in 30 days. He's not ready for that schedule.
No.
But I think Punk would definitely bet. I think that's more of a Bryan Danielson hook. Because Danielson, the New Japan thing is why Danielson signed with AEW. Because WWE tried to get a little bridge with New Japan and it didn't work. And Bryan was like, see ya. Because he wants to go work New Japan. And I'm sure he's enjoying the young crop of AEW guys that he gets to work with. I mean, Bryan Danielson, go off on a little tangent, but it became a running joke because Bryan Danielson always wanted to work with Gran Metalik in WWE, who is Lucha House Party opening match guy for years, and Bryan always wanted to work with him because they would have a phenomenal match. But they're not going to do it. So I bet if Danielson showed up to Dynamite and said, "I like the way that Daniel Garcia guy works. Put me in the ring with him for 12 minutes next week."
Don't do that.
Sure.
We have to change my shorts. You keep talking like that.
So it's all about giving the talent ways to succeed. And so far, Tony Khan has been really fucking good at that. And that's why everyone's going to AEW.
It's all about who they want to work with, and allowing that to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, Punk called out a handful of names in his scrum. Again, point them out by name. There's the obvious ones: Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Moxley, Darby Allin. But then there's other names that aren't quite so.
Did he call out Omega and the Bucks this time?
As people he wants to work with, yeah.
The names I heard before were like Darby Allin, Pillman's kid.
Well, that's where I'm getting to. There's 4 more names on this list that he called that he wanted to work with. That's Jungle Boy.
Yep.
Darby Allin, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Brian Pillman Jr. None of those guys are. I mean, Jungle Boy, yes, he's top level talent, but and Darby's probably in there too. But I mean, is Brian Pillman Jr. going to be main eventing a pay-per-view anytime in the next little while? No, but is he going to be main eventing a Dynamite? You're damn right he is, because Punk wants to work with him.
All right, I got 2 questions, and we'll see if any more come in the chat. The first one being, is AEW at a point with how big their roster is that you guys could see the chance of, maybe doing Soldier Field All Out 2022, assuming the world allows it? Or a big stadium somewhere. You know what I'm getting at.
I'll say it again, because you're never going to get a pay-per-view at Soldier Fields there without a lot of plans. If that's the case, we'd know about it by, say, April, because the NFL schedule would have to be taken into account. The Bears can't be home that weekend if you're planning a pay-per-view at Soldier Field. That and September in Chicago is a risk weather-wise. So I still think stadium pay-per-view is going to be a Double or Nothing May pay-per-view in Las Vegas at the whatever the stadium there, Reliant Stadium, is that what it is in Vegas? I can't keep track of the name. The names they're all the same.
The Death Star basically looks like it. Fuck.
I thought that was in Atlanta.
True. Jared, what about you? Do you think it's possible, man?
I think, if anything, I know Cody Rhodes had mentioned that being kind of on their bucket list for AEW to run a stadium show. I think New York, judging by how fast they're selling in that market, also could be an option. I mean, New York really isn't WWE town anymore. They've, like I said, they've branched out under the brand and fucking, they're not. Back in the day, guys would say instead of saying, "Hey, I got signed by WWE," they'd say, "Oh, I'm going to New York," because that was their home territory, and it's
Even
not
the Garden
there
every month.
Yeah, and now they can't even sell out the Garden. So I think AEW, might build a little, because New York's a fantastic wrestling town, and I think that would probably be a good spot to run something like that. Just not until like August.
I think if they actually do New York, it's not. When everybody says New York Stadium, you go to Jersey. You go to MetLife. No.
Yeah.
I think if you're AEW and you're gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna do New York and we're gonna do a stadium, you're doing something crazy. And throwing it out there, I think you're going to Yankee Stadium.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing. WWE doesn't run baseball stadiums ever. I think the last one they ran was Safeco Field for WrestleMania 19, I think. They mostly just do WrestleManias at football stadiums. I mean,
technically, they did.
Yes, Johnny, they did Shea Stadium. It was in 1980.
Yes, they did. No, I was thinking, didn't they run a pay-per-view at the Skydome after that? Wasn't there like Royal Rumble at the Skydome one year?
They did Raw.
Didn't they just have Royal Rumble? The Edge
at Phoenix.
In
Phoenix.
Oh yes, it was. Yeah. Because they had that the Roman Reigns Baron Corbin thing where they fought on the dugout. Yeah.
And of course, how could we not forget? Literally, Thunderdome was at Tropicana Field in Florida.
Okay, yeah. You're stretching it a bit there.
It's still a baseball stadium.
Is that where it was? Wow.
Yeah, it was at Tropicana.
Ugh, what a dump.
An effective dump for their uses.
Yeah. John sends in a $10 super chat. Thanks for doing this stream tonight, guys. What a time to be a wrestling fan. Have a good night. I will admit, thanks for the super chat, man. It means a lot. I will admit the idea of, I watched AEW basically up until the pandemic started, right? So that was my first time back watching wrestling as often as I could since, Punk 2013. But the idea of following again is enlightening for sure. Last question for me, guys. How do you think they book Punk? And what I mean by that, like, is he, in terms of win-loss, is he going to go back and forth because it's been 7 years off? Or are they going to book him like, hey, he's one of the big guys here and he's rarely going to lose?
I think Punk is very open to losing when it's right. Because, you can't just bring Punk in and beat him like a drum because you can. Just because he wants to work with the younger guys, you put the younger guys over. I think Punk is smart enough to the business. He's been around long enough to where he knows when and the value of him losing. So he's not just going to hand out a win to Jungle Boy. No offense to Jungle Boy. Or it might even be Jungle Boy. I don't know. But he's not going to just put himself out there to get beat. MJF would be a perfect example of a guy to put over Punk. Because he's on that level where he can say, hey, I beat CM Punk, and it means something. You know, a good example was when Foley came back in 2004, and they did the match with Randy Orton. And Orton beat Foley in, essentially, it was a hardcore match. And Foley's name had enough value at that point that Orton ran with that for a long time.
Launched the Legend Killer gimmick.
Exactly. So I think Punk is smart enough to know that, okay, I'm okay with losing, but I also don't want to lose just for the sake of losing. You know, I want to put over guys who are going to be the future of the business. So, you know, I think a loss is valuable, but, you know, I think, and like I said earlier, you can put Punk over Darby Allin and it won't hurt Darby at all, because Darby is in that sweet spot where he's over. Him losing isn't going to hurt him at all, and you can give him a win here and there. You know, he and him being with Sting helps too, because you're always going to get a pop with Sting.
Yep. For sure. All right, fellas. Final thoughts on what was at the end of the day a really fun night to lead up to, and a cool payoff. What did you guys think about it as big time wrestling people?
I mean, I loved the moment. I hated the booking of it. I mean, it's an unfortunate reality that, to me, it feels like a moment squandered. You know, just because you didn't do anything for, like, to get ready. Like, if you do that in, like, segment 2 and you hype it up for the opening segment and you can build it up and let the Twitterverse do its thing, get the people to view it for the second half, whatever. But it just cold open, no hype, no nothing beyond the subtle. It was a great moment that I think isn't going to have the effect it could have had if they'd have done it differently. They didn't build anyone. I don't think it moved the needle enough that it's going to be that. Like, if they drew a big rating, they'll get, you know, 1 million, maybe 1.1.
Well, they're
Like,
the number one trending thing in the world and have been for hours.
yeah, but that's not a big deal. I mean, let's be real. Like, it's still not a big deal to do that because social media is awkward. It's 10 p.m. on a Friday night. What else is being talked about?
SmackDown was 17th. Again, I don't know what any of this means. I'm just giving you the facts.
That's another funny thing. WWE likes to, you know, jack themselves off when it comes to social media engagement. They'll just leave that one under the table.
Jer, what was it for you, man?
I think tonight was revitalizing for a lot of reasons that we've gone over. I think it's a new leaf. I think Punk coming back shows that, you know what, you can love wrestling again, even though it, you know, chews you up and spits you out, and you can come back because it's wrestling. You know, it's a family, you know. And I think ideally we would going forward, we would just have the new reference to the CM Punk pop, because I don't think anything's going to top that. That was just phenomenal. And I'm glad that I was able to say, you know what, I watched CM Punk's return live. You know, I was sitting here watching, just drinking it in, man. And it was just awesome, you know, because everything, like, and just listening back to that podcast that he did, like, he was so angry and bitter, and, you know, just to see him be happy and love wrestling again. You know, we got CM Punk back tonight. The same CM Punk that left Ring of Honor 15 years ago. The guy who signed his WWE contract on the Ring of Honor World title belt. I can't hear Sean.
Didn't realize he was talking.
I was trying to talk. Bloody hell. Technology hates me today.
I mean, it's also 2 a.m. I'm sure
yeah.
you'll be forgiven.
Quite baked and quite tired. But anyways, earlier I'd forgotten something and you just reminded me what it was. And I took it in Punk's promo when he was talking about, the leaving and the coming back, is that was a subtle shot at him saying WWE isn't pro wrestling.
100%. That's
Okay,
exactly.
I just wanted to make sure I was perceiving that right.
Oh, there's no question. That was exactly, what he said when he's, I think it's pretty clear when he says, I haven't been in pro wrestling since April 13th, 2005.
August.
And, yes, August. And August 21st? August 20th, 2021 is the day I returned to pro wrestling. I think that's his...
He was a sports entertainer and he hated it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And now he's a pro wrestler.
Well, I think that's a fitting way to close the show out. Well, first it's on my end, now it's on your end. Fitting way to end.
You gotta love car alarms, huh?
Yeah, lovely. Nothing like a good old car alarm at 2 a.m.
Yep.
Well, I definitely didn't think we were going to go for an hour and 40 minutes, but this was fun, guys, and maybe we can do it again in and around All Out or shortly after. Thanks for doing this. You guys are both from the same social media place, so whoever wants to plug it, plug away.
That'd be that guy. That guy. You got the socials, I don't.
Yes. We run a football podcast covering NFL news and notes and dynasty football and fantasy football, all sorts of football stuff. We do a show every week. It's called The Inside Handoff. You can find us on Twitter at Handoff Inside. For my wrestling takes, you can follow me on Twitter at Jamie Virtue. And Johnny handles the Facebook aspect of the Inside Handoff.
That's right. You can find us at facebook.com/The Inside Handoff. And of course, YouTube, The Inside Handoff, where you can watch our football musings and shenanigans and rabbits that we chase on a nearly weekly basis. Or you can listen to us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
Good stuff. You can catch us here, Phantom Empire. We have a show Tuesday night, Phantom Empire Live. I'm sure we'll bring Punk back up. There's a bunch of Halloween stuff to get to, and we'll see what happens. And then for wrestling fans, AEW Dynamite is Wednesday at 9. Am I right? 8
p.m.
8. All right.
9 Central.
That's how long it's been since I watched wrestling. Monday Night Raw would come on at 9 o'clock. Leave me alone, people.
Yeah, and you'd watch it on the new VR.
I was going to say, remember we used to watch Raw at like 8 p.m. on the new VR?
I remember watching Raw on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. on TSN. So,
Yep. I could never stay up for the midnight airing.
I hated it when they moved Nitro out of that spot. Like, I'd watch Raw on Monday nights, and then I want to watch Nitro on Tuesday nights. No, we got to have Raw again? No, I want Nitro now, damn it.
We're out of here, people. CM Punk. He's back.